Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have Jeff Lester of HuntHard Outfitters. Jeff is an outfitter in New Mexico as well as in Arizona, and we're going to talk to him today about what he's seen with the Elk Rut, both in New Mexico and in Arizona. Jeff, how you doing?
Good. Great, Jay.
That's awesome. I know you're busy. I won't take up a lot of your time. You came off a year last year where you harvested a couple of fantastic bulls yourself on personal tags, one in Utah, one in Arizona, and then we dove right into the archery season in New Mexico, and the Arizona season is about to kick off. Let's start with New Mexico first. What units are you primarily guiding in over there?
Oh, we hunt a lot of different units. We hunt mainly, all the 16 units in the Gila, 15, 17, 13. Like I said, all the 16 units, 23, pretty much everything on the, the western side of the state.
What are conditions, for sure, what are conditions, I'm sure it differs from unit to unit, but overall, what are the conditions? How did summer play out? How did the monsoon rains compared to other years? How do the conditions stack up?
Well, the feed is about as heavy as I've seen it in years. I mean, it's just really, really good feed on the ground right now. The rains came a little late. Usually we get those rains really starting in around July 4th. New Mexico, it was kind of sporadic in different areas, but when it came really heavy, and they had a really big green up all over the Gila, and, all over, when I say green up, I just mean that the feed came on really heavy with the heavy rains. But it's been sporadic. The rains, usually, we get that monsoon activity where every day you get that buildup and get that storm. And we haven't really seen that this year. We've gotten a lot of good, solid rains, but then we've had, 5-6 days in between with no rain. I just came off.
What would you say? Go ahead, Jeff.
I just came off this first archery hunt. Just got home. We were backpacked into the Gila. Just had one client on this first hunt that we backpacked in with, and we did 8 days backpack hunt, and we only saw one rainstorm the whole time we were in there. So pretty hot and dry right now. And actually the heat, I saw upwards of 90 degrees one day. We had 92, and I've never seen that kind of heat on that archery hunt. So it was pretty miserable heat-wise. And, I'm not a big fan of setting water, so it wasn't, it was pretty tough hunt. Other than, we had some really good opportunities and stuff, but we were hunting a specific bull, and it was pretty hard to locate him and keep tabs on him without him talking, And it was a good hunt. We saw a lot of bulls, but we were glassing everything that we were hunting. The bulls, a lot of the bulls were singled out still, just doing their everyday pattern, feeding, just packing on the weight. We did have a couple of good mature bulls that were with cows. But they weren't doing a lot of talking. You might get a bugle here and there in the morning, and in the evening, when he got them up out of bed, he might bugle once or twice, but the rut activity was really slow. The bulls that we missed were all spot and stock. We would bet them, and then we would just close in on them and sneak in on them, and then, of course, when they got up out of their bed to feed or something, we'd get a shot. Those are the shots that we got on that hunt. So.
Were you really fighting the moon pretty hard?
Yeah, the moon was, of course, full, but it was really hot, no rain in the hunt, nothing. Like I said, we had upwards of 90-degree temps on that hunt in the afternoon, around 1 or 2, it was, it was baking. Just no cloud cover, just hot, nasty hot for where, for archery season. So really tough, I know there's been some pretty decent bulls taken so far, in New Mexico. There's been a couple of really solid bulls killed Don't know really the story on any of them, if they were shot on water or what. But, some guys have got into a little bit of rut action. The bulls have really started picking up. After we came out, I spent another 4 days scouting another unit, and in the last 2 days, I've really started seeing the bulls turn on. So
things are starting to happen.
Bulls. Yeah, it's really lot of action here in the last couple of days. A lot of bulls are showing up to cows that haven't had bulls with them. In the first part of that hunt, we were hunting a specific bull, and that big bull was with cows. And then we lost him, and I'm pretty sure we were keeping tabs on the cows. So I think he just came in, was checking a group of cows, and then he, left, of course. And we watched a number of bulls, just almost like on a pasture, where they were just coming off their feed. They would line out. They'd go straight to North Hillsides and bed up. And then that evening, probably 30 minutes before dark, you would catch them moving back out onto their feeding ground,
How would you say antler growth is in New Mexico compared to other years?
It's excellent. We've got a lot of really, really solid bulls. I think they went into the winter really healthy, and we had some decent snow this year and good moisture through the winter, and I think that they had enough to get them through to these rains, and everything's finished out really solid. I mean, there's a lot of feed on the ground right now. They're going to have another really good winter. So the bulls look really good. I mean, I've seen, on average, I would say, some exceptional bulls. So as long as the rut, chimes in as normal, it should be a really good archery season in the next 2 weeks. We should have a really good season as long as everything, goes good. If the heat, hopefully it'll cool off a little. And I looked at the forecast, and it's showing that we're still going to have some pretty warm temperatures, and I'm not a big fan of that. The heat's really hard to hunt in sometimes, but there's nothing we can do about it. I know you guys down in. Go ahead. I'm
sorry to interrupt. What tips do you offer? What tips do you offer the listeners that if you do still have those really warm days and it's an extra, abnormally warm, what kind of things are you doing as a guide and as an outfitter to get your clients more opportunities on, if it were to stay hot?
When it's hot, you need to be right in those bulls' bedrooms when the sun comes up. You need to be right in, so if you saw a bull the evening before and you need to be, they're not going to give you a lot of that. When it's really hot, a lot of times they'll go to bed earlier. They won't stay out, once the sun starts hitting them, they'll really move off to bed quick. And once they get to bed, it's not a good idea to be hunting them, depending on where they're bedded, of course. But if they go into these thickets, especially in the P&J and the pinon and juniper, you're going to do, a lot of harm if you just try to get in there and hunt them in their beds. You're just going to blow them out, and you're going to ruin it for that evening. So the best thing to do is to be as close to them, so if you have to walk in the dark, of course, be checking your wind and move on those bugling bulls, in the morning when they start to blow. You need to be approaching them and getting close as you can and dare before the sun comes up, because you're not going to get a lot. You might not get a lot of that, rut action with those bulls screaming, depending on how many bulls are with those cows.
Well, I know you've had some success on wallows and on water as well. I mean, do you find when it gets exceptionally hot during the day that drives them to wallow during the day or water during the day, or do you find they stay bedded but they're going to hit the water that night?
Yeah, the water's in New Mexico. The water's really, that last hour before dark, a lot of those bulls, want to go to water, and they'll push their cows to water. And if they don't push them to water, those cows will go to water, and that bull's going to follow. And anytime, the water situation, I mean, when it's hot like that, I mean, water can be deadly. It can be, it can be a good combination. When they're bugling and you have a lot of rut action, I really like to hunt them on the ground. I don't prefer to sit water. But like on this first hunt, that's definitely a strategy a lot of guys use, is to set water because there's really no other way to hunt them unless you got open country where you can glass the bulls up,
Sure. A couple more questions about New Mexico, and then I'll get your take on Arizona. This year, from what you're seeing, bigger bulls going to come out of 16A or 16D?
I would say, the biggest bull I've already seen killed has come out of, I'm guessing A. I don't know if it was A or D, but I think it was an A bull. And D, I'm not saying that the biggest bull is going to come out of either of those units. I mean, it could, there's obviously other really good units that, could pump out a really big giant. But out of those two units, I would think that A is going to be a little better just because I think it's got, a lot more elk right now due to, the good burns and stuff that it's had. But both units look really good. I mean, they've both, the elk have looked really solid in both units for the last couple of years, and from scouting and from what trail cams and stuff have told us this year, both units are, really solid.
Okay. One last.
I mean, the
question
bulls all over New Mexico, like I said, Jay. I mean, the bulls all over the units we're hunting look really, really good in all the units. Everything finished out really nice. Good front end, good back end on a lot of bulls already that we've seen.
Good stuff. Nice to hear they're not droughted out. I always cringe those years when it's droughted out. With a little bit of a slow start to the rut because of warm temperatures, how do you think that plays into the early muzzleloader and some of those first rifle seasons coming up in New Mexico?
I think everything is going to be as, like on a kind of a even keel. I mean, everything's normal there. It's just, I don't think you're still those bulls are going to start peeling off before that first or second muzzleloader. I think the rut will be pretty much done. Everything's coming in as normal, like this middle of the month here is when this rut's starting to get really cranking right now. This morning I saw lots of bulls with cows, a lot of rut activity, a lot of bugling. And that was the first, this morning was the first morning where I personally had seen heavy activity as in rut activity. I've seen a little bit up to now, but this morning was definitely the most bugling and most rut action I had seen. But I was in a pretty good pocket of cows, and there was quite a few bulls that had moved in around there, and so that always tends to make a good scrum, and those bulls get going really good, Obviously, there was something in heat in that group, because of what I saw. There was one bull that was really running the show, and, he was really keeping all those other bulls away from that group of cows. So one of them, I'm guessing, those those cows are starting to come into heat.
Just for the listeners, it's September 13th, so Jeff is saying his first really good morning of good activity is September 13th for you listeners wanting to know what date he's talking about. Jeff, that's a good report in New Mexico. Look forward to seeing your success on this next go-around on this archery hunt coming up, and then, the muzzleloader and the early rifle and all the different stuff you got going on. Tell me about Arizona. What units are you working, and how is it looking in each of those units?
1 in 27 is what we're mainly working right now. And, of course, I live in Unit 1 in Springerville. And everything looks really good. I mean, our summer scouting, everything, I've seen a lot of really solid bulls with cows earlier in Arizona than I've ever seen before. For some reason, even 2 weeks back, I was seeing really solid big bulls with cows that were, velvet was gone, antlers were browned up. And that's some of the earliest I'd ever seen that size of bull with cows. And I asked buddies if they thought it had something to do with the eclipse. But
are you talking with cows and bugling and jousting around a little bit, or are you just talking about just with them?
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks ago, actually it was the last week in July. in August, sorry. And I was just out. I went to get a load of wood. I had to do, get a couple of errands, things done before. And I was out one evening, and I shut my chainsaw off, and I heard a bull bugle. And I just walked down the ridge really fast towards that bugle because I could hear him. And all of a sudden, this big old pile of cows comes across the ridge in front of me, and there was about a 360 bull with these cows. And he was, it was like middle of September. He was pushing cows and just going on like it was nobody's business. And I thought that was, I had never seen it like that. It wasn't a little bull either. And he was, the velvet was gone. His antlers were all browned up, and it was kind of funny. I was really shocked. And then that night coming home, I saw 2 or 3 other bulls with cows, and I thought it was really, really odd. And then 2 days later, I saw the same thing in a whole different area. And sometimes I think it's kind of a fluke, it's just kind of what happens. Those bulls just get around those cows, and a couple things happen. Because after that, we saw lots of cows with no bulls, and I think it was just one of those things that just happens sometimes. And the moon could have had something to do with it.
How's the feed in Unit 1 and 27?
Oh, it's these mountainous units, these timber units always have really heavy feed. Feed's off the charts again, really good. And all the burns, it's just solid everywhere. It's really, really good feed. So, same thing in Arizona. We've had big spans, a week with no rain, and then, we got an inch or 2 inches in a couple of days. We got big storms, but not that. We usually average about 11 to 14 inches during the monsoons, and I don't think we're probably on around 10. I'm guessing we're on the low side of that right now. So,
but it looks good.
Oh, it looks good, yeah. The feed is really, really good. Late season will be good. Bulls finished out really nice. Everything's really good. And, we're not seeing as many really, really big bulls that we've seen, say, in the last 5 years. The age class is really starting to get knocked down in these units due to that late rifle hunt and some other things. I think a little bit of overhunting, Still solid bulls running around, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but it's definitely not what we saw, in these, 3-4 years ago where we had, 10, 15, 400-inch bulls running around the units. It's not like that. It's definitely not those. We a lot of 4 to 6 year old bulls.
So, with that being said, there's a lot of 330, 340, maybe even 350 bulls. There's not a ton of 360, 370, 380s. It kind of peters out as you start getting up.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're looking at your average bull running around the woods right now is probably, a 310 bull, and then you've got a number of 320, 330. But as you climb, that number is drastically dropping for size-wise with the age class of these bulls. There's, that 330 bull is a pretty doable bull in any hunt in these units, in the rifle hunts, any archery hunt, anything. But once you go over that 350 mark, you're going to have to do your homework and do your due diligence to kill that kind of bull in these hunts. 3A, 3C looks really good. A lot of really solid size. I think that one's kind of come back around after the beating it took after, Rodeo Chetasky, years back. So, but I know the bulls over there look, really, some really good solid bulls in that unit as well. So,
with the archery hunt in 1 and 27 and 3C starting on Friday, with the timing, the moon, the good feed, good antler growth, you're pretty optimistic about the success of the hunt, and people are going to be reporting quite a bit of bugling and pretty good activity.
Yeah, I think this year the way the dates land and the moon and the way, I just think that it's going to be one of the best. My opinion, as I think that it's lined up to be one of the better rut years we've had in 3 or 4 years. Now, I hate saying that because I want to knock on wood, but because we've had kind of a crummy rut in Arizona for the last few years. it's been really hit or miss. You get a morning where it's really cranking, and then it's just dead for a few days. And I don't know. I mean, time will tell, but I think that this year, it's going to be good, and I think that trophy hunt is going to be another. I think it's going to have some really solid rut action in that trophy hunt as well. It'll be interesting. 27 this year. Obviously, last year it had that trophy hunt prior to the archery hunt, which that could have screwed some things up. It could have changed some stuff, but it's hard to tell. Without having stuff set in stone, it's hard to put a pattern on it, And this year it's going back to, like it was. So I don't know. I'm optimistic to say that it's going to be a pretty good, we're going to have a pretty solid rut in Arizona, I don't know. I haven't heard much about what's coming out of the northern units. I know it's been hot. I've got a couple buddies that have tags in some other areas, and one of them sent me a text a half hour before we talked, and it was just his thermometer in his truck was 94 degrees. Wherever he's at, it's 94, and that's not very fun elk hunting weather.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hope it cools down a little bit. I'm actually in Wyoming, headed to Montana on Monday, but the bulls here, we're actually where I'm staying is pretty close to the Teton National Park, and the last 4 or 5 nights the bulls have really gotten into it. Of course, we've got temperatures over the next 5, 6, 7 days going to be in the low 50s, and pretty good. What a desert rat like myself would call a winter storm coming in. I'm still in shorts, but I'm quickly switching over to the ski parka. But I think that has something to do with it. But I'll be curious to see over the next few days when the storm comes in if they just go ballistic or if it kind of slows them up. Jeff, I want to thank you for your time talking about New Mexico and talking about Arizona. And any other hunts? Have you done any antelope hunts or anything over in New Mexico, or is there anything to report yet? We should probably check back in, in a couple weeks after the season to see all the good bulls you've killed. But anything to note on any other fronts of hunting?
No, this year we did a lot of scouting, preparing for this archery season, and a lot of the clients we had booked in the second part of that New Mexico hunt, guys that are buying landowner tags don't want to spend that kind of money and then come in on that 1st through the 14th can be kind of hit or miss. It can be a good hunt at times, but it's a lot tougher. So the guy that we had, of course, drew that, and I've heard of some outfitters that had. I know one of the outfitters over there had 22 clients in the first hunt, and I heard they only killed 1 bull. Wow. And another one had 16, and I heard they didn't kill a bull. So, that it's first hunt can be really tough because of that, because of the heat and because of the action and stuff. But one of my guides had the first hunt, and I just got a picture from him today, and he shot a really, really solid bull. It looked like a mid-60s bull.
Awesome.
So
awesome. Well, you're about to kick off. Yeah, I mean, you're about to kick off some serious elk butt kicking here over the next couple weeks between Arizona and New Mexico. I know you try and stack your hunts up to give your hunters, the absolute best chance they can have at success, and you've done it long enough to know that, don't stack the front end because it's better to stack the back end. So I hear what you're saying. And
it'll be interesting this year to see our success compared to last year due to a lot of the people that we have returning are a lot of repeat clientele, and with the bulls looking the way they are right now, I think a lot of guys are going to be trophy hunting. So I'm expecting to see, our success rate probably drop a little bit due to, we're going to try to kill, the upper, class of bull. And when you do that, Of course, I tell guys all the time, if you want to kill the really big bulls, you've got to be willing to eat your tag. And our first client that we had on this first hunt, we were hunting a really, really solid bull, and we just made a choice that we were going to try to kill that bull, and we gave it all we had to kill him. And on the last day, we actually had been seeing this really old bull, And he was only about a 320 bull. He had short points, but he was real heavy, and he was running a bunch of cows. So we tried to sneak in on him. We actually missed that bull trying to get a shot on him. We could have killed him earlier in the week a number of times, but we decided just to, if we could get him out of the gene pool on that last day, we would try it, but we actually missed him. We put a perfect shot on him, but as it goes, a little limb saved that bull. The arrow exploded, hit basically a pencil-sized limb right in front of his vitals. And that was that.
They tend to do that. Those dang limbs tend to do that for sure. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your expertise and weighing in, and I want to give you a chance to let the listeners know how they can find you.
You can find us on Instagram, which is it'd be HuntHard_gear. And you can find us on the web at HuntHard.com, and then go to the outfitter section on HuntHard.com. We sell packs and equipment as well, and clothing and apparel. So our outfitter section is getting set up on that same website. And then, of course, on Facebook, you can find us at HuntHard on Facebook.
You can also, the listeners, you guys can check the show notes in the link to this podcast, and I'll have a link there for all of Jeff's go-to spots. And like I said, buddy, I know you're about to kick off the meat of your season here, so I'll let you go. I appreciate the report, and knock 'em dead in both states, okay?
Okay, and then one other thing while I'm on here, I'll add,
yes,
Jay, just because
sure.
I'm on here. It's kind of important to the listeners to know if they're interested in hunting, of course, Arizona or New Mexico, that of course you'll do podcasts, other podcasts that say this, but it's important that basically January, the 1st of January is when you need to start getting all your stuff together for the draws for both states. So at the first of the new year is when everything, gets cranking for application season. So
good stuff. Yeah. I'm glad you pointed that out. Jeff, take care, knock 'em dead, and I'll be looking on Instagram for your success photos. And you guys always do a great job, and I just like watching how you guys do it. So keep up the good work, okay?
Okay, Jay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Good luck on your hunt. All right.
All right.